Hi gamers, today I just wanted to do a little video where I kind of show you how I use reWASD. People who watch my stream know that I've been using reWASD for a very long time. The main benefit for me using reWASD is that I can avoid taking my hands off the controller as much as possible. Meaning I bind most of the actions you would normally have to use a keyboard or a tab out or whatever to do. So I'll show you my current setup, which is what I use for playing on the 8th gear server for racing and hot lapping currently. Then I'll also show you some examples of what you could do in other situations as well. First of all, the most basic things the first things I map every time I make a new config for GTA is I always map honk and look back to the keyboard versions of themselves. So here you can see I muted the native function and then I changed it to E, same with look back, which is C. The reason for this is because in GTA, when you have the native controller function for honking and looking back, it's slightly delayed. And the reason why it's slightly delayed is because in single player you have the motion where you push both buttons, both joysticks in to activate someone's special power, Franklin, Trevor, Michael. So the game needs to have that little time to figure out if you're trying to just press one button or two buttons. So there's like a little built-in delay. If you use the keyboard version, there is no delay. So you can honk instantly and you can look back instantly. Some other things, the 8th gear menu I have mapped to the Xbox button here. 8th gear also has a chat toggle. So if you get distracted by chat, I have that here. I can turn the chat off, turn it on during racing. You know, during a race event, I generally want to race with the chat off, but if I hit someone, I can be like, I can turn the chat on to see if, like, you know, was that me, whatever. I have some reshade hotkeys here. I have my different reshade configs set up in my reshade, and then if I tap this button right here, I can change between them very easily. Toggle car lights, that's basic. Here we have something a bit different. This is basically whenever I tap this button, I brake, but I also turn right at the same time. This is to help me to hit some all-wheel drive brake boosts. Usually works the best on flat ground with a slight bump. This is not a tool you should use to learn those kind of brake boosts, by the way, but it just helps me sometimes with some of the easier boosts. And then I have my handbrake mapped to Y, and I have turned this handbrake off completely, this top right here, because when I drive and I short shift with the trigger in the back here, I tend to accidentally hit this button sometimes, which is really unfortunate to like accidentally hit a handbrake mid-corner. So I actually unmapped this, and now it's just handbrake on Y instead. Moving to the back, we have my right and left trigger are just native, but here the paddles I have previous and next track. So whenever I'm listening to music on stream, I can go back and forth between the tracks. Additionally, I have bound the other paddles here to volume up and volume down. Now this requires a bit more. I have an external program that kind of communicates with these buttons and then decides what that button should do for my music program, and it individually raises and lowers the volume of just my music. So that's it for the normal mappings, and then we also have something called combo mappings, which is when you press multiple buttons at the same time. So here you can see I also have media play pause if I hit both joysticks. So you know what would be, for example, Franklin slow down in single player. Here I would just pause my music with these buttons. I also have an alternative handbrake. I kind of replaced this with the Y button, but for some time if I hold both bumpers, I do handbrake. And then also I have a macro. So if I hit both my rear, the lower paddles at the back, what happens is I hit a macro, which instantly resets. So this is for hot lapping in 8th gear. So this is what'll happen. It'll open the F7 menu, click through and spawn my car real fast, wait 1.5 seconds, which is the intermission between the black screen, like the previous screen and the next screen, and then it'll back out of the menu. It's really helpful when you're hot lapping and you just want to like spawn quickly, like if you miss a boost, hit a corner, whatever, because I suck at hot lapping, so very useful for me. And this is what I use now. This is actually like pretty on the low end of what you can do with reWASD. Back when I used to do RP, I would need a lot more keybinds than this. And I would like to show you an example of how you could get a lot more keybinds as well. So other than obviously mapping a bunch of different combos, you can add many more combos here, obviously. Another thing you can do, I'll show you with a new config here. Let's just make one that's called like test. So this is default. Everything is native now, right? So let's say you map all your custom stuff to this controller, but then you leave, for example, say you leave this right paddle for something different, and I'll show you. So we have something called shift layers. Let's map this paddle to the shift layer. So basically, right now, let's say I'm just gonna map one button just to show you. So let's say you mapped your A to Q for whatever reason. I don't know. You map your A to Q. But then what you can also do is you can have a shift layer. So right now, whenever we hold, yeah, it's on a hold mode right now. So whenever you hold this back paddle, the whole config will go into shift layer 1, okay? So what that means is while you're holding this back paddle, you can add a completely new mapping to A. So previously, if you're not holding the paddle, it would be Q, but now when you're holding the paddle, we've mapped it to E. So as you can see, not holding paddle, pressing A would give you a Q. Holding the paddle, pressing A would give you the E. And seeing as we have multiple paddles, we could do that for others as well. So here you go, another layer, we added another layer. Shift layer 1, let's see, let's go to the main layer first, and then we add jump to layer, shift layer 2, it's on hold. Then you probably want to mute the native function as well, just so that's done, and then hop to shift layer 2, go back here, click A, and now we can map A to whatever else. So basically A now has 3 different mappings depending on what paddle you are or aren't holding. So no paddles, A is Q, the right top paddle E, left top paddle P, and so on. So you could effectively almost double, triple, and quadruple, you know, how many keybinds you have. Which is what I used to do for NoPixel. NoPixel, I would have to have so many radio buttons, so many different whatever all the time. And this is really just dipping your toe into what you can do with reWASD. You can do a lot of stuff with like the joystick dead zones or trigger dead zones. I never messed with that because I just want it to be native for GTA so I don't lose that feel. But yeah, this helps me use streaming and gaming without having to take my hands off the controller as much as possible, which is very helpful for when you just want to be racing. Obviously, there are other ways to do this, using auto hotkey scripts and stuff like that. But I think the nicest thing about reWASD is the fact that you have this graphical interface, like the user interface, which makes it really easy to understand. And I feel like it's worth mentioning that if this sounds interesting to you and you're willing to, and you want to try it out, currently I have a promotion with reWASD, so there's a link in the description if you want to get a discount on buying a license. But if not, thanks for watching.